To win an endurance race, it's like a whole championship in one race. You have to go out and you have to attack every stint as if it's your first. Riding a motorbike, you use every muscle known to man.
But the Nürburgring, also known as the Nordschleife, is probably the most difficult race on earth. In the motorsport world, this is the race that you have to finish and try to win.
Not even 10 years after the car was first invented, there was the first car race. And what a race. 1,100 kilometers from Paris to Bordeaux, as hell for man as for machine. Some of the most famous motor races in the world are endurance races, like Mille Miglia, 1,000 miles on public roads the length of Italy. It provided Stirling Moss with arguably his greatest win.
If you're a racing driver, you love doing crazy things. You have to start out realizing that the danger is addictive.
Endurance is not always on asphalt and not always on four wheels. The Dakar Rally is hardcore for both car drivers and motorcyclists. The toughest endurance track races each year are the Le Mans 24 Hours for motorbikes and the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring for cars. Racing for a full day and a full night with 2 or 3 other teammates to share the burden is about the only thing 2- and 4-wheel endurance races have in common over their 24-hour marathons. Racing at Le Mans is gritty Aussie biker Josh Hook. And racing at the old Nürburgring, a track so dangerous Formula One boycotted it after Niki Lauda's fiery crash, is ex-Grand Prix driver Tiago Monteiro.
I would say that it's the biggest human challenge you will see face to face, because the difficulty of the drivers, the tiredness, the stress, the fear sometimes that you can see on our faces. Then you see the tiredness and the hard efforts and work of the mechanics. And then you see the dramas of the mechanical failures that will happen almost all the time. 24-hour races you have once per year, so I think that people are actually craving that. Even though nowadays you have YouTube, you want something very quick, you want to watch a 1-minute video of whatever. At the same time, I think people are really looking forward to this big, long effort. Relentless thing is still there, still going, still fighting the team, the mechanics, the car still. So all this excitement, people still want that.
I think fear is definitely a factor on this track, more so than on a conventional circuit, because the margin between a fast lap and crashing is often very, very fine. And certainly in a 4-man team, you feel the responsibility for all your teammates. Every time you're behind the wheel, you want to hand that car over to the next person in the same condition.
24 hours is such a long time. Even if you just stay awake and do nothing for 24 hours, it's hard work. I think we're doing 8 or 9 stints each. You know, the concentration is so difficult to keep because you are so tired and exhausted, and the level that you're riding at is so high. Mentally and physically, it destroys you, and it does make it hard, but that's what we signed up for, that's what we're here to do, and so we have to take it.
Le Mans is probably the most famous 24-hour race in the public, but the Nürburgring, also known as the Nordschleife, is probably the 24-hour race that you want to win, that you want to finish. Just to finish it is already a huge achievement. So this is probably why all the race car drivers want to be there. The Nordschleife is probably the most challenging, the most difficult race on earth. A crazy long 25 kilometers racetrack with bumps, with different tarmacs, with 20-something blind corners.
It's a lot just to remember, and it's why this track has such a legendary status. I mean, Sir Jackie Stewart famously gave this place the name of the Green Hell, and it's stuck ever since. And that is because it is just quite literally that. I mean, back in the 1970s when he was racing Formula One around here and you know, winning, and those guys, I mean, they didn't have any of the safety that we have today that we take for granted. They were literally driving with a petrol tank next to them in something that would fold around them if they crashed. And it's a scary place.
We use the Honda Type R and we develop it to a racing car. The road car is already a very sporty car and very close to a racing car. The main thing is we have to strip it down to lose as much weight as possible. Then we upgrade the engine to have a bit more power. We put a special racing gearbox, better brakes, of course, for the racing scene.
It's a completely new CBR 1000 Honda. This is the first model in quite some time where there has been a significant change. It's definitely a step forward, you know, the power and the chassis from a standard spec bike is better than anything I've ever ridden before, let alone turning it into a superbike and making improvements that way. So I think the bike is capable of winning races, no doubt about that. We can be fast, and we've proven in the limited time that we've had on the bike that it's a force to be reckoned with, and looking forward to the race.
Having won the 24 hours of the Nordschleife in 2019, we have a target on our backs and everybody wants to beat us. So we have an approach like we have to repeat exactly what we did and just improve on the small mistakes we made. So it's quite a good position to be in. We are aware it will be a huge challenge to win it again, but that's why we are there. We want to win it. We want to make it again. The good thing about the 24 hours is that you need the whole package. It's not just to be the fastest car. Everything has to gel together, really, with a little bit of luck also on your side. You can feel now the emotion coming, you know, the tension, the pressure, even though I'm not taking the starts. You are at the Nordschleife. It's never safe to race here, even when it's dry and hot. But obviously these conditions make it worse. While we are running, we have to be safest, being fast at the same time. We want to repeat the win of last year. We are the champions, and we want to do it. So, yeah, we're ready for it.
The race gets underway. Lights go green. And the Group 2 drivers accelerate away. Their race has begun.
So the race start in Le Mans. Generally speaking, we have a lot of people on the start grid. They do the national anthem, they've got fireworks going off, and as a rider, that really pumps you up for the race. There is nothing like that, but obviously this year, without the spectators, we didn't have any of that. So they do a countdown, 5 minutes, 1 minute, and then 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, so on. Then the flag drops and you have to sprint to your bike, and the bike is turned off at the time, so you have to start the bike and then take off. It's unique to endurance, and that's what we love about it. It's important for us to get away quickly and get out of the traffic because we've got 64 bikes on the grid. It's hard enough riding with that throughout the whole race, let alone if you get caught back in it on the first lap where everyone's bunched up, so it's important to get away quickly. Meanwhile, while that's starting, the second rider is already getting ready to prepare for his stint because he's up in 50 minutes. The first stint's always a little bit shorter than the rest of the stints because you do 2 sighting laps, and that's just the beginning. You know, we've got 24 hours to go, so there's no really way to be excited about that because the race is so long. So it's important to stay focused on the job and not make any rash decisions. If you can get a lead in the first laps and control the race, control the pace, and this is what we aim for. Usually we do a full tank of fuel as long as that goes for. So generally speaking, around an hour per stint. Then we'll go out, we'll do our hour, we'll come back and we'll have 2 hours off. We got to be in the box about 10 minutes before they're due to stop, just in case, you know, they're using more fuel or they have to pit stop early for any unknown reason. Your teammate will box and immediately he jumps off the bike. They put new tyres front and rear and 24 litres of fuel. Generally takes about 10 seconds is probably a good time for a pit stop from the point where the rider gets off the bike or the bike's stopped. He gets off, they put tyres, fuel, and the other rider jumps on and takes off.
It's a 25 kilometers long racetrack, but 2.5 kilometers are straight and flat out. And during that time, which is probably at least 45 seconds, 1 minute or something like this, you can kind of stretch and relax your arms because you spend the next 8 minutes really grip to the steering wheel and tense and no time to breathe at all. I'm sure that for us it feels really hard and probably the hardest race that we do. But if you compare to a bike, obviously it must be so much easier. So when a biker comes to a car, it feels safe, it feels secure, it feels easy physically for them. So they have a very different approach to risk and danger and effort.
I can swear that racing a motorbike around for 24 hours has got to be harder. You use your whole body, and as a car you don't. And you got 2 wheels. I mean, keeping it on 2 wheels is hard enough as it is. So you have to be a lot more concentrated for a longer period of time. You know, the consequences of crashing or making a small mistake can lead into the race being finished. So that brings a lot of pressure as well. So our race tactic is to start the race and try and get some fresh air. When we achieve that, then we can control the race. This is important because we've built that buffer in the early stages and our job is to maintain that or build it, get the gap bigger if we feel comfortable.
Be careful, the track is very, very slippery. Very slippery.
It was fun. Actually very fun. Because, well, I started quite wet and the car balance felt great, and then the track got drier and drier, but the balance was still good. So I was able to really push more and more, overtaking some really faster cars. They were struggling a lot, so it's enjoyable when you feel that you're confident and you're fast. Yeah, I really had fun. There's many challenges in endurance racing, both mentally and physically. The thing is, once you start the race on a Saturday, usually, you already had a very busy week. Usually testing, practice, qualifying, late nights, because you have to practice at night as well. So you finish late, wake up early, and that's for the whole week, basically. So you start the race already tired, mentally, physically. But once it starts, you have a huge adrenaline rush during the stints. But the stints are long, first of all. They will last between 1.5 hours to sometimes 2.5 hours in the car. You know, back pains, neck pains, arms, everything is working so hard. We have an average pulse of 160 during the stint. I mean, that's when you run a sprint on the road, you know? So it's very, very, very intense. Then you have a very little time to recover. So you have maybe, in total, maybe 4 hours. But it's never really 4 hours of recovery because you have the debriefs, you talk to the guests, talk to the journalists, talk to your physio, and then you go rest a little bit and come back and start it again.
When you race a 24-hour race, your whole body hurts and you try and work on that area that hurts most in the off-season to come back and make it better. But at the end of the day, it's a 24-hour and it's so physical that there is no easy way physically to get around the race. You just have to get on with it. On the Friday practice, I had a crash. I broke the 2 metatarsals in the right foot. It wasn't a bad break, but it was still a fracture. And for me, it was so painful to do. I mean, I couldn't walk. This is where our physios play a massive part. You know, we come off the bike and every stint something else hurts, something else is wrong with the body, and they turn around and fix it and out you go again for another stint. And it's just one of those things that I think you can never be fit enough for.
A racing driver needs to be a really good athlete. The drivers are responsible for the rest. They need to take care about taking coffees or sweets, because we will need to use this kind of stimulants for the night hours, and we check everything when they finish the stint. We check the hydration levels. Sometimes we put them in the scale to see the weight, how they change before and after the stint to control the hydration levels. And in the physical part also, we do some warm-ups before and some recovery work after the stints, and then they go to rest and be ready for the next stint. Comparing a race driver with an athlete, imagine in track and field, they are both demanding in terms of the physical part, but in motorsport, I think the mental part is even more important. When you run, you are used to that, it's more automatic. But here you have the track that you need to know every corner and do it after laps and laps and laps and keep the focus. And you have a lot of the steering wheel, you have a lot of things, you have the radio, and in the track and field we don't have that.
I like riding in the night. It's generally cooler. The track temperature comes down a little bit so we have more grip. The bike's easier to make the lap time because we have more grip. The engine runs better because the air's cooler and the engine seems to like that more as well. Obviously you can't see much because it's dark. I mean, with the speeds that we're going and we're full lean angle one way, full lean angle the other way, the light's never in the right position, but you've done that many laps around that place and you're in the zone, let's say, it just becomes effortless. You brake in the same spot, you open the gas in the same spot, you end up doing the same lap time, if not faster in the night time, just because we have more grip and the engine's got more performance at that point. Generally in the middle of the night, it does get a little bit slower. Because the guys are tired, if you try and push for an extra second, then they're going to make a mistake. For the team side of it, they like to just try and be consistent again, like us.
I raced my first Le Mans late 90s. The night was a big challenge because you couldn't see. You're still going at 350 kilometers per hour, but you don't see more than 80 meters. So you're driving blind, really. Nowadays, we have amazing lights on the cars. The problem is the others. The lights are so strong that they blind you. So when you have lights for a long straight line, these strong lights in the mirrors, and you can't really adjust the mirrors, so it's there and it's blinding you, and then you blind the others, and etc., etc. So they're good for you, but they're not good for the other racers around. So the technology has evolved. It has helped us to be safer, to be also faster at night.
Normally we'd be doing this in May with 6 hours of darkness, and we're going to have almost double that amount of night driving. We have no spectators this weekend, so all the parties and the bonfires and the fireworks around the edge of the track are gone, and it's like driving into an abyss, this kind of black hole. There's just nothing else there.
The decision is made, a red flag is shown and the race is suspended. All the cars head into the pit lane.
They decided to stop the race because of the heavy rain and the fog on some places, even the track limits you could not see. And I said on the radio, guys, it's really risky and it's really hard to drive now. Even when you get passed by another car, even by a GT3 car with a Venturi in the back, the spray is so big. These cars, when there's so much water, you see nothing for the next, you can say, 20 seconds.
And so now I'm gonna try and get a little bit of rest before the hard part.
We're getting into early hours in the morning now, and the riders are tired, we have to try and sleep. We have to try and get a little bit of rest if you can, because we know that that's going to help us in the long run when the sun starts to come up and we've only got a few hours to go. It's important to be strong at the end of the race just in case something does happen or we've got a battle on our hands for the win. We know getting that one step closer. We're in the final stage of the race, let's say. Let's just keep riding how we've been riding all night. It's been flawless, and we have to try and carry that momentum to the finish.
Back in the pit lane, the teams start to prepare for the resumption of the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring. The suspension was the 7th in the history of the 24-hour race, this time for 9 hours, and 90 of the 97 starters were still running.
What counts is the amount of laps, not the timing. So if you are 1 lap down, well, you stay 1 lap down. 2 laps down, 4 laps down, you keep that. If you're on the same lap, even if you're far away, you rejoin. So you're not happy if you're leading with a huge gap, that's frustrating. But if you are second with a big gap, you have a chance to recover. So it is the rules. I mean, it's always been like this, and you have to accept it. As I said, sometimes you need a bit of luck to win championships or races. So for us now, we're leading, but the other car is 9 minutes behind. It seems a lot, but it's not that much here. It's less than a lap. So we have to push. Usually at this time of the day, we are kind of managing the situation and see where we are. Because of the new situation, we have to really push until the end for now to try to keep a gap.
We're now that close to the finish, and we know that we've got this lead, and our team was consistently checking the times of the P2, P3, P4 guys, and we're just trying to maintain that gap. But the stress that builds on us around that, because we are so close to the victory, but you get thoughts in your head about problems in the pit or something happening to the bike, and it's difficult at that point in time to stay so focused. But we've got these guys chasing us down, and it really is stressful at that point. Might get shown the last lap board, and we're all on the pit wall hanging over the edge cheering him on, and it's so stressful, and it seems like the longest lap for everyone, and to see him come across the line was amazing. Words can't describe how excited everyone is. Our hard work has paid off. We're just so emotional at that point in time. As a young kid from rural New South Wales, I never thought I'd be racing here in the Le Mans 24 Hour, let alone winning. So to win this race means everything to us. It's a dream come true.
And we made it, 2 tries, 2 wins. We are the endurance masters now. It was an amazing team, amazing 4 drivers. We were strong, we avoided all the risks, all the big tricks on the track. It's good now, it feels very good. It was an amazing team job, and I'm very proud of them. We all worked hard. It was not an easy night as you saw, but nevertheless always difficult and challenging here. I have a huge respect for 2 wheels, for the riders. I mean, I love motorbikes. I know how hard it is. It's probably much harder actually to sustain 24 hours on a bike. It's 2 different worlds, definitely, both very hard. But I mean, the risks they take and the endurance they need is quite another level.